Just over 4.5 hours. We are counting down to CNBC's exclusive town hall event today with President Barack Obama at noon. At the forefront of the discussion will be the debate over taxes, as you probably know. Joining us this morning from Washington, Democratic Senator Ted Kaufman from Delaware, a member of the Judiciary Committee. Senator, good morning to you.
Good morning, Carl.
Everyone seems to agree that this tax debate is really at the core of this event and whatever event the president decides to do.
Sure.
Do you think it's that simple?
I think right today it is simple. The problem I have, Carl, is, and it's kind of amazing when you watch the debate, and that is that it seems like on one week we're really concerned about deficits. You know, the deficits are terrible, and we did terrible things with the stimulus bill because then it caused the deficits and deficits. And so far I've not heard anybody discuss on the show this morning or on the Senate floor much about what the deficit implications are of increasing the taxes, cutting the tax for people over $250,000.
I'm glad you brought that point up. Because we have poll numbers that are fresh out today from CNBC, right, and they make exactly your point. We asked the most important issue to you. Economy and jobs are 42%.
Right.
Deficit and spending it's not even a contest at 14%.
Yeah, no, well, that depends on the survey and how it's made. I saw one the other day that had 44% for the deficit and 42% for the 42% for the tax cuts. But clearly, jobs is the number one thing, and jobs is what it's all about. Has been my main concern, and that's what we have to worry about. But I think we also have to worry about the deficits. I mean, on the same shows that you hear so often, people talking about how the deficits are destabilizing, the deficits are hurting the markets, the deficits are doing this. But on this morning, I don't know. I've just been listening for a while. I haven't heard anybody mention the tax cuts and deficits. Yeah. $700 billion over the next 10 years to give the tax cuts to people making over $250,000 a year. And look, I know lots of people make over $250,000 a year. I make a very nice income, but the marginal propensity to consume of people making over $250,000 is about as low as it gets. Yeah, but I was at a fundraising event where people were making $1,000 when we have the tax rebates with a bunch of people sitting around a table. They all made over $250,000. Not one of them was going to spend anything they got in the tax cut. They were all going to put it in the bank. So Senator, there seems to be a disconnect between the discussions.
Senator, no one's proposing the full 10 years. You love to throw the $700 billion number around. Orzag, others. They were talking about 1 or 2 years, which is like $40 or $50 billion, which you guys can spend in a second. Moody's.com just did a survey that if you let them expire on the rich, it's 700,000 fewer jobs. You want jobs, right? And 4/10 off the GDP.
Joe, look, I just don't look. Those are not the numbers that I believe. Pat Moynihan said everybody has a right to their own opinion. They don't have their right to their own facts. That is not what I see happen on tax cuts for the people that are very wealthy. And by the way, the people who are very wealthy will get a tax cut. On the first $250,000 of their income, they'll get the same tax that everybody gets in the first $250,000. And this idea of just putting it forward for 2 years, that's once we keep these things supposed to be a short period, it's supposed to be over after 9 years. Now they want to pour it for 2 years. And what do? We send a message in terms of stability in the markets on our deficits when we go and do this. People around the world are going to look at this and say they're not really serious about the deficits.
You can say that all of a sudden people aren't, what about the deficit? What about the deficit? But the converse is true too. Suddenly, after the spending binge of the Obama administration and your party over the past 18 months, now suddenly it's all about deficits.
No. Hey, Joe, look, let's go back. If we're going to do that, let's go back to where these deficits came from. How do we get to $10 trillion in debt? We got it during the Bush administration. The same people want to take over with the same policies. We cut taxes. We didn't pay for them. Medicare Part B, we didn't pay for it. War in Iraq, we didn't pay for it. War in Afghanistan, we didn't pay for it. Those were trillions and trillions of dollars that we didn't pay for. So when we started, if you want to go back over the last 18 months, let's go back over the last 10 years. In 2000, we were projected by the Congressional Budget Office to have a total debt of $1 trillion by 2010. Turned out to be more like 10. They were wrong, but they were wrong by $9 trillion. Talk about what Obama spent and what the deficits have been recently. Most of those deficits because we kept in place the tax cuts that we did before, and we didn't change those. So, and not only that,
I'm guessing
Joe, they're talking about the estate tax. Nobody talks about what the deficit. The estate tax would cause minimum tax. Some of these things I'm for, but to not have deficits be at all part of the discussion. And by the way, Joe, I've been talking about deficits for 2 years.
No, I know. I can't believe what's happening. How about what's happening in your home state too, Senator? That's you were never.
By the way, that's
You were never a warlock, were you?
No. No,
You want to
Joe.
come clean? You want to come clean right now? Tell me the truth. Yeah. All right. Have you used a Ouija board?
I mean, I did some crazy things when I was in high school, Joe, but I'm telling you, being a satanic mass was not one of those things.
All right. Well, we got that on record now, Carl.
Absolutely.
So we want to look into his background.
I think he dabbled in a couple things. He's just not willing to tell us quite yet. I'm guessing, Senator, that your odds of the president bending on taxes or hinting on bending on taxes at this event today is practically zero.
Carl, look. We talk about bending. It's incredible. There's no bending. Pick up your morning Washington Post and find out what the Republicans are willing to bend on. This is like a holy jihad to keep the tax cuts going. Joe, I don't need a single thing where you're ready to compromise. It takes two to compromise. We compromise. Look, the president, and I heard one of your commentators say, well, he has to go back to his rhetoric during the campaign. Hey, look, we went through 6 months of trying to compromise with the Republicans on health care reform. We got zero. And in fact, we got beat over the head with the death panels, which was in the bill, sponsored by Republicans. We put lots of Republican bills. We got nothing. Financial regulatory reform, it took us about 2.5 months to figure out what's going on. It takes two to compromise. I don't hear any compromise coming out of anybody. I hope today, I really do hope today, that both the president will be listening, because I agree with your listeners on that. I hope the CEOs will be listening. So they say one thing in public, but the lobbyists down here are not into compromise. The other thing I hear on the show all the time is we got to get rid of uncertainty. We got to do something about taxes so we can get rid of uncertainty. There's no talk about that lobbyists in Washington. The lobbyists in Washington are saying, we won't buy the tax cuts. We're going to vilify you if we don't get our tax cuts.
Senator, thanks for your time. We'll see you next time.
Hey,
Senator
Carl,
Ted
good to be
Kaufman
on with
of
you.
Delaware.
Put a spell on us.
Hey, Becky, how you guys doing?
Thanks, Senator. We're doing great. Anyway, thank you again for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. It's my fun.
Up next, we're going to take a look at this morning's top stories. And then the president forming a new consumer agency with vast powers to enforce